My name is Kari Jordan, and I'm the Deputy Director of Assessment for Data Carpentry. How many of you have heard of data or software carpentry? Just great, awesome. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but for this talk, my initial goal was to create a space where we'd explore some different training models and how they've been used to kind of improve diversity. But what I realized was, looking at data science research, work in diversity, the term diversity has sort of become a buzzkill. It's like, oh, here we go again with this diversity stuff, right? Just by way of example, and nobody's gonna judge you here, I promise. When you think of the term diversity, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Just shout it out. Taboo. Oh, that's the first time I heard that one. But you're right. What? Anything else? Inclusion. What else? Improving teams. Accessibility. And you were going to say? Viewpoints. Absolutely. So it's a range of topics. But what I wanted to do was kind of create a conversation not around diversity or just checking off a box to say, oh, we have women now. Oh, we have Black people now. But really to talk about equity and how we can expose more people to Jupyter Notebooks. So that's what we're gonna do. Hopefully by the end of this session, we'll all go back with an action plan that we can achieve this. If you have your laptops or even an iPad or some type of tablet and you wanna go to the Etherpad that I created for this session, it'll give us a chance to keep the conversation going beyond this workshop. So just go to pad.software-carpentry.org. I'll give you a minute to do that. And then /equity JupyterCon. And I'll show the link again, but I'll leave it up there just a moment. If you've never used an Etherpad before, let me just show you really quick what it looks like, if the technology will be nice to me. It takes a minute? Okay, there we go. So it'll look like this. You need to put your name in the type right-hand corner, and it picks a color for you. And that way, every time you type, we'll know who's typing by that name. Your name will match your color. I don't know how to change the colors, so don't ask me about that. Thank you. See? Learning together, okay? So if you want to keep the conversation going, take some notes, and then when we create our action plan, we're going to put it here on the Etherpad as well. Absolutely. There's just a small delay in the AV. There we go. Everybody's good? Awesome. So this pictorial is one of my favorites. Have you seen it before? Yes. I picked this one because I figured it would kind of be familiar. And it was created originally by a business professor and a healthcare operations researcher to kind of get the conversation started around equal opportunity and the difference between equal opportunity and fairness. It's been used in tons of different contexts, from social justice to feminism, but for today's purposes, I want to use it to kind of create this idea around the difference between equity and equality. So some researchers at the Interaction Institute for Social Change adapted the figure, and I think it's really cool. You have these three individuals who are looking over this fence trying to view this baseball game, and it kind of gives you the idea around equality and what it means. Equality is about sameness, right? It's about giving everyone the same thing. But the difference between equality and equity is, what do you see in this picture? These three individuals are at different points in their life. We have an individual who's extremely tall, medium height, and then short. I hate to use those words. I don't think they're politically correct, but you know what I mean, right? Giving them the same exact thing so that they can see over the fence to view the game. But what do you see? They all get the same thing, but they can't still see, correct? Now, the difference in the figure on the left and on the right is what I like to talk about in terms of fairness versus equity, okay? These three individuals are coming from very different places in their lives. So we can't give them the same exact thing and think that they'll get the same results. Does that make sense? Yeah. I know I'm preaching to the choir because it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, but I just want to frame the conversation. So creating or removing barriers is sometimes thinking about how can we give people access to the tools that they need so that they can be successful. The problem that we have, though, is this is kind of the state of how the world looks right now. And I can't say that it's anybody's fault, right? The fact of the matter is there are some people who have access, and then they have more access, and then they have more opportunities than others. And that's just the world that we live in. So why should you care? This is a very, very good question that I'm hoping. Why should you even care about equity? Why does it matter? Why does it matter that people who don't look like you have the opportunities to learn the skills that you learned? Why do you think it matters? So you can serve everybody. Anybody else? Yeah. Oh, sorry. A balanced society. I like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. We all come from different backgrounds. And the thing about, the term diversity, so many people have looked at it from the color standpoint. Okay, well, we have Asians, we have, persons of African descent, we have indigenous populations, but what about those who have varying abilities? What about the person who is in a wheelchair? Have you created a workshop where they can not only participate in the workshop, but do they have an easy access to get to the bathroom? Things like that we have to consider when thinking about equity. I was reading an article, I think it was on Medium, and it talked about how by 2020 there will be about 1.5 million jobs in tech. Well, we need people to fill those jobs. Training is the way to do that. So this figure, and I'm so sorry, all the slides are online, so hopefully you'll be able to download them. It didn't, stretch properly, but this is a figure that a company out of the UK called Information is Beautiful, and you've probably seen this figure too, just looked at the top tech and social media companies and the breakdown of their employees. And of course, and this is obviously in the United States, women love social media. Am I right, ladies? No? Okay. I mean, we do. But we are less than half of the employees that are, those employed at social media companies. Now, there has been, especially for Apple, a 3% increase in their Asian hires, which I think is fantastic. But overall, if this is the makeup of the tech companies, how can we change the makeup of tech companies? It has to come from training, and it has to start extremely early. So my proposition to you is this about liberation. It's about removing all barriers to participation. We shouldn't have to give you one box, give you two boxes, give you three boxes. Let's just remove the barriers, period, so that everyone has access and equitable opportunities. So how can this be achieved? I guess that's $1 million question. In the context of Jupyter, right? In the context of Jupyter. I'll tell a personal testimony. I like to tell this story. So my background is actually mechanical engineering. Thank you. Jeez. I came from a background of, physics and all those awesome things, but I did not want to touch programming. The most I did was a little MATLAB, and even then I was like, okay, all right, this is enough. But when I took on this role at Data Carpentry, I came in, okay, knowing how to use SPSS and Excel, obviously. I did not know how to do, I had never heard of R, I had never heard of Python, version control. A year later, I'm writing code, I'm doing reports in R Markdown, but that's because someone removed that barrier, that fear. How was that possible? The $1 million question, training. I like to sing too. So that's what I want to implore today. I believe that training at all levels, it doesn't take having to teach a full workshop of 45 people. It can be something as simple as I'm going to tutor someone who's 10 years younger than me or 10 years older than me. I'm going to expose someone else to the tools that I learned because I think this is important. Training has a way to, it's one way to eliminate the barriers that we see in terms of participation, especially for Project Jupyter. So this is one picture that I love to show. This is actually a software carpentry workshop, and it kind of tells the story of why training is important. Exposing diverse communities to coding and Jupyter notebooks will expand the number and type of projects. I've heard, just in these 3 days alone, I've heard about genomics projects, I've heard about human trafficking projects, I've heard about dog manure, which it was just a little weird. But it's awesome, diversity, Lord. So collaborating with organizations like they mentioned earlier, Code, Black Girls Code, and things like that, has the opportunity to expose what you already know to be a wonderful platform to other communities. And that's what we do at Software and Data Carpentry. So Software Carpentry, for those of you who don't know, was co-founded by Greg Wilson in 1998, just to teach basic lab skills so that researchers can get more done in less time and with less pain. Now, how many of you feel that coding is a pain? I just want to know, because I felt like that. I'm surprised. How many of you feel like research is a pain? More people. And put those two together, right? It's a hot mess. Okay. Data Carpentry is kind of a spinoff of Software Carpentry. It started in 2014, and it was a nonprofit that looks at more of the basic computing skills, like, do you know how to organize your data? Do you know how to clean it and load it into a package so that you can run analyses in R and things like that? We're actually doing a merger right now. We're in a merger, so we're going to be one organization and looking at how we can expose this training model to more communities. I forgot to say, we're also a NUM-focused project. I'm going to get fired. We are. We are under the NUM-focused platform as well. And this is an example of one of the lessons that we teach. So I'm not just up here preaching as if this is not happening. The reproducible research using Jupyter notebooks is an excellent lesson that our instructors are teaching, and it's an example of how you can teach a workshop around Jupyter, the learning objectives tied directly to the material that you've learned yourselves. What we found is, so our workshops are 2 days in format. Over the course of about 8 hours, there's a lunch break in between. We have a couple coffee breaks. I know you need coffee. That's a must. But these workshops have the ability, and they have impacted not only the novice, so the person who's never coded before, but those competent practitioners and experts. Everyone has come in saying, this workshop has helped me make my analyses more reproducible. It's made me learn more about code. It's made me want to join a community. So training works. I did this in R. Oh, thank you so much. I couldn't have done this last year. Y'all have no idea. But this is from I did a report for both software and data carpentry post-workshop, just to understand what was their motivation. So our learners, usually a workshop is about 30 people. Sometimes it can be a little less depending on the community. But what is their perception of the tools and their motivation to use them after the workshop? And mind you, this is a 2-day workshop. And we found, now, there's a little bit of work that we need to do with SQL. Maybe you all can give me a couple tips after that. I think we need to do a little work in that area. But for the most part, learners are leaving more motivated to use the tools in their everyday work and to share the tools with other people in their networks. As an aside, if anybody in this room who uses R, I know I'm at a mainly Python people workshop, but if you can tell me how to get that key on the bottom to wrap in R, if you could just plop that in the Etherpad, I really need some help with that. But this is a comparison of their knowledge pre-workshop and then their knowledge after the workshop. And there's a 6-month time span in between these two instances. So they're coming into the workshops having little or no knowledge about Git, Python, etc. And then after the workshop, they're feeling like, okay, my knowledge has increased. I can now use these tools. And it's not about making them leave with knowing everything. That's what being a part of a community is about. But it's about giving them the confidence to say, okay, this isn't that bad. Coding isn't that bad. I can figure this out. And if I can't, I know who to ask. I have a community that I can belong to. And then this is just a comparison. We did a long-term survey. So we sent a survey to those who have attended our workshop 6 months or more after the workshop. And we wanted to know, are you still programming? You took our 2-day workshop. Are you still using these tools that we taught? And there was a significant difference. There was about 17% that said before the workshop, I had not been using these tools, and that changed to about 5% post-workshops. And this is 6 months after that 2-day experience. So this just a 2-day workshop has the ability to really impact learners and their use of these tools. By empowering individuals like everyone in this room, just to go back to your communities and share what you know about the Jupyter platform, imagine what kinds of projects we would see next year at JupyterCon. And sometimes it may feel like this is overwhelming. There was a session earlier where they talked about wanting to quit, especially if you're a maintainer. This is I'm volunteering already, and then this pressure. But imagine if everyone in this room went back and taught one person, we would double the number of people in this room. So that's what I want to empower you to do today. How is Project Jupyter being shared? And this is actually a question that I would love for you to kind of like throw out at me, because I don't know the answer other than GitHub and things like that. So right now, how is Project Jupyter being shared? How do you talk about it? Oh, PyData meetups. Okay. You?
We use it actually to teach new folks Python that are people that are new to Python in the San Diego Python servers.
Mm-hmm.
We use it for workshops.
Awesome.
In courses, like instructors will have along with the supplemental materials.
Okay. One-on-one. Can you just speak a little bit about that? That's the first time I've heard of one-on-one. Yep.
I got high school from college, now every student has to write research papers. That's the whole 7 semester task. And this guy, this is a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, that has written what he thinks is a novel coming out. He has no idea how to write about code.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has
Right. That's awesome. And that you took the time to volunteer to do that is amazing. Voluntold, voluntold.
Are you a nerd? Yeah.
Oh, that's me. No, but all of those make sense because, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a YouTube channel that
And what is that channel? By the way, cool. Awesome. If you could just plop that in that Etherpad, that would be fantastic. And you were going to say something in the blue. Yeah. So a lot of you have mentioned some of the things that I put up on my slide, which is fantastic. But you didn't mention some of them, so I'm going to go through them all. Okay. So talking about mentoring. If you identify one person, I think a common thread that I've noticed, what most of you all said in terms of sharing Project Jupyter, was it was at the academic level. So you're teaching a college course, you're mentoring. But what about, we know we need to get people interested in coding much earlier than college, right? So what about reaching back to those? Now, everybody doesn't love kids like that, and I understand. It's a special population. But we have to figure out a way to reach back to even younger, the elementary, right? Getting them involved in this now so that they know what the opportunities are that will be afforded to them, not waiting to the college level. So what if you were to identify someone who was either 10 years younger or 10 years older than you? That's my favorite part, the 10 years older. And kind of mentor them, show them what Jupyter is or show them what Python is. Organize a Jupyter Day in a community that's brand new to you. Sometimes we kind of go for what's comfortable. I'm a Black woman. Right. She said, really? I had no idea. So it can be easy for me to go and find other Black women, right? What if I didn't do that and I kind of reached out to other communities that I'm not familiar with? It may be a little uncomfortable, but you may learn a lot and you may end up loving it. Start an employee resource group. So not all of us are in academia. Some of us are in industry, nonprofit, government. What if there was an employee resource group around using Jupyter that you could start or you could co-start? You need a team to help you. Share your notebooks on LinkedIn. I know we share them in a lot of other ways, but I personally haven't seen much about Jupyter on LinkedIn. What if there was a LinkedIn group that you could create to share what you're doing? Organize meetups, and not just to learn about Jupyter or to use it, but to solve problems in communities, in your own community or developing communities. You could become a software and data carpentry instructor. No plug intended, but plug intended. I brought a lot of stickers if you need laptop stickers from software and data carpentry, so don't forget to grab one. But you could become an instructor. I teach the training. You will be with me. It's a lot of fun. And you could teach the reproducible research using Jupyter Notebooks lesson. And then someone mentioned this earlier about submitting a talk, but to a different type of organization. So what if you submitted a talk about Jupyter Notebooks to the Hispanics in Computing Conference or something else outside of your normal scope? These are just a few challenges that I wanted to share, but now it's time for us to do some work. And yes, we all have to do this because, again, it is 5 o'clock. I have to keep you active. So this is what we're going to do. If you have the Etherpad open, we've moved from equality to equity to liberation, but now where will your story go? I didn't want this to be a time where we all sat in a room and patted ourselves on the back about all the wonderful things we're doing. You all are doing wonderful things, and I applaud you. But there's still so much more to be done. There's so many more opportunities. If everyone did one small thing, just think of the impact that it would make. So we're going to create an action plan, and I'm going to come around. We're going to work on it for about 7 minutes and share it on the Etherpad. So think about the best way that you can share either the project that you're already working on or just the tool in general. Pair up with a neighbor. Think, pair, share. This is an evidence-based instructional practice. I did my PhD in engineering education, so sometimes it just slides into who I am, okay? So you're gonna pair up with a neighbor and develop 3 actionable steps that you can take in the next, well, I said the next month, but I do realize after this conference, you're probably not gonna look at any of this stuff until about 2 months after that, and then it's the holiday, so I understand. So in the next 3 months, actionable steps, SMART goals that you will actually do, okay? Talk about them with your neighbor, and then you're gonna share your action plan on the Etherpad. And here's the link one more time. We are gonna do this for 7 minutes. So if you need a partner, raise your hand. We're not shy in this room. And I'm gonna time us because I'm gonna share. Does everyone have the Etherpad link? So you know I'm gonna pick it apart just a little bit because I am an engineer. Julia, Stewart, and Robert. Where are you? Hey! Okay, so you talked about making notebooks, make notebooks that a wide audience would be interested in finding problems that feel universal. How? And this is not a question just for you, this is for the room. How can you find projects that are universal? And don't do like my dad and say Google it. That is not an acceptable answer. Yes.
So I work at a chemistry software company, and I work as a computational chemist. And our, for instance, our accounting department has really no clue what we do because they're accountants and not software developers or chemists. So one of the ways that I would be able to implement, like kind of introduce people to Jupyter, especially accountants, to Python, would be by using it to teach them what our products are and how we use them. By like I didn't know you could use Jupyter to make presentations. And
I didn't know that either.
As well, yeah, I've loved them all. But that would be a way. That would be a problem for my company that seems to be universal for the non-technical.
Right. So you have to point to where it would matter to them, something that they're familiar with and they could in turn use. That makes a lot of sense. Right. You said or what?
Forecasting.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they need that. It's very important. Paco. So Paco, Carol, and Tyler talked about writing about their experience learning Jupyter.
Yeah, I'm like 2 months into it.
So how has your experience been so far?
It's been great. Like I was telling Paco, I think my favorite thing is being able to take like a book that someone has written, and I can run it next to me. I can copy. I can see the changes like back and forth, and I can write in it too. Like it's not just like, oh, here's like a block of text that I put in. It's actual markdown with like headers and all that stuff.
So it makes it easier than just, is it easier to you than like a textbook would be?
Yeah, totally. Because I can just take sections of it, and I can look at sections of it, and I can, it's not like a interactive calculus book, where I can
Yes.
look at, I can actually push that, and I can see that.
See what it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I can play around with it, right? Like change the parameters.
Absolutely. So I have to be respectful of time. It is actually 5:40. But I really want to keep the conversation going. So what I'm going to do is, what am I going to do? You have access to the slides, yes? Everybody, please, if you have your contact information, if you want to keep talking about how we can expose more diverse populations to the Jupyter platform, if you could just put, even your Twitter handle is all I need. You don't have to put your email. I don't spam people anyway. I think it's rude. But if you just put your Twitter handle there, and we can make a list on Twitter so we can follow each other and we can keep this conversation going beyond the workshop. Yes, and I'm just going to put up the last slide because that means I'm done. Yes.
Under data carpentry or software carpentry or combined carpentry, it's like a repo about like sharing Jupyter notebooks or something along the lines of what
Yes.
you had, and maybe like take parts of this document and convert it into Markdown and just sort of start.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Issues and share stuff as well.
That's a great idea. I don't have a pen. Can you just write that in the Etherpad? Or put Kari's to-do list. I didn't know this was good. I didn't realize this was going to happen. Kari's to-do. If there's things you want me to do, just go ahead and add them to the Etherpad. That's my time. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.